Very good. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me for another session about real estate investing. Danny here from California, and we hold this session on a weekly basis, typically Friday morning. We used to do it at 11 a.m. Friday Pacific time, California time. Now we moved to 10 a.m. It seems like more people are joining in at 10 a.m., so that's, I guess, a benefit. And this is a purely opportunity to educate you and maybe interact with you. So you can post your comments and questions, and ideally even get to know you a little bit better beyond the scope of this session. This session is being recorded in 3 channels: on YouTube, on Facebook, and on our podcast. So you are most welcome to consume this or other sessions that we had in the past on any one of those channels. So by all means, you can definitely watch it not just here, but in other channels, other media channels, outlets. And I will say this: we do have and also a podcast, only a podcast in Hebrew. So for those of you who are Hebrew speakers and want to listen to me more speaking in Hebrew, you're most welcome. You can do it on our Hebrew podcast. It's a little bit different because it usually targets mostly people who don't live in the States, and we talk about the challenges they have. Since we launched the one in Hebrew, it's been an amazing response because I get a lot of people coming through that podcast and saying, "Hey, Danny, we heard you. We related to what you talked. We want to speak with you, want to meet with you." So by all means, if you're listening here or on any of the other media outlet, you are most welcome to take this from a generalities and from a big perspective into your specific case, specific situation, specific scenario. And I invite you, call us up and set up a time for us to talk, to speak. We can do it over the phone. We can do it Skype, Zoom, Facebook, and in person, of course. Just the other day, 2 days ago, I got a call from someone who's visiting from Israel, who happens to be in Orange County. And he said, "Listen, I heard your podcast in Hebrew, and I'm here in Orange County on a business trip. I'm flying back yesterday. That was Thursday. And I want to take you up on your offer. You said you'll buy me coffee and we can talk." And we actually met for an hour and a half-ish, and we talked about many things, many strategies, more, some of them in a bigger picture kind of a conversation, and some were very specific on his challenges. So that was obviously very beneficial for him. Very fun for me to do a face-to-face meeting because most of my meetings are using some Facebook or Skype or whatever. But here I am. You guys are most welcome. No string attached, no sales pitch. We're just going to talk about you, your needs, and what your challenges. We all have them: beginners, experienced, advanced. And I'm going to come in and try and talk to you like I talk to many investors on a weekly basis. And we try to overcome challenges, eliminate obstacles, move obstacles. Everyone has them, and they're different from one person to another. Sometimes it's financial ones, sometimes are other ones, understanding and knowledge and fear and so on. Today, so enough said about that. You are most welcome to get in touch with me if you want to meet, and we can talk, in more details, of course, about you, specifically you, and in more intimate environment. Enough about the sales promotion, so to speak, or should I say self-promotion, so to speak, and let's dive into today's topic. By the way, I try to bring topics that I get asked about, or I get to talk about, or I hear about from investors throughout the week, and I try to come and say, "Hey, here's an interesting topic, here's an interesting question, something someone asked," and bring it over to this session so you can benefit. So the whole purpose of this session purely to educate you, so you can learn and you can understand and you can actually be more successful. Ideally, you will come and work with us, but you don't have to, of course. Well, you have to, but I understand if you wouldn't. Today, I want to talk about what I call the effect of investing on people, on owners, on investors. And what do I mean by that? Let me start with a story. About 3 years ago, one of my investors, a gal that lives in California, and she's been investing with us for about, at that time that we met, she was 2.5 years-ish after purchasing 2 rental properties. And when we first met, she and her husband, she told me that she is mostly coming from a stocks trading background, and she's always done stocks. And this is the first time, real estate is a little bit a foreign object or foreign affairs for her, and she wasn't very comfortable with that. And she said that she want to give it a try, and we started investing. She purchased one house, got it rented, of course. Wait another 6 months or so, maybe a little bit longer than 6 months. Purchased another house, got it rented, got it settled. And then about 2.5 years in, owning 2 properties by that time, she comes in and said, "Look, Danny, I want to have a conversation with you. I want to meet. I want to see how we can move forward, continue. But I want to run a few things, with you. I want to, run a few things before we actually decide what to do next." So we meet, and she sits down and she says, "Listen, before we talk shop, before we talk real estate, I gotta ask you some, in understanding. I gotta ask you something that I'm missing, something that's kind of bugs me." I said, "Yeah, shoot, go ahead." And she said, "Listen, you know exactly what we purchased. You know exactly actually what happened through the journey with one house. We got it, with a tenant, and another house. It took about 10 days to get it rented, and then when the tenant moved out, it took one took very quickly to rent, the other was a little bit took a little bit longer, and we had some repairs and we had some vacancies, and she said nothing too dramatic. Actually, pretty much everything you told us that will happen happened. We had some miscommunication with the property manager, we had some repairs, we had all of those things, everything. So nothing was a surprise to us because you told us those things will happen." And she says, "I even remember you telling us that when we got a tenant within 10 days, don't get too excited because usually it doesn't take 10 days, it takes a little bit longer, but obviously, that's a good experience." And she says, "Listen, rents are coming, it's been 2.5 years, 2 properties, rents are coming in on time. We had repairs, we had vacancies, we had, turnover, we had, the miscommunication with property manager, but all in all, it doesn't consumes me. It doesn't take a lot of my time. It actually works very well in the background, right?" I said, "Fine, that's exactly what we're trying to do here. We're trying to design a system, and I've already designed systems and processes and checks, and checks and balances and checklists in place in order for you to exactly say that. So what is your question?" She says, "Here's my question. I don't get it. Relatively, it's easy. You've made it super easy for us. You actually told us what to expect. You set up teams, and etc. So things are working well, very well, actually, considering the time we are spending on those properties, which is very minimal. What am I missing here?" So what do you mean, what am I missing? She says, "It's either that I'm waiting for something to happen, for the, for something dramatic to kind of come out of nowhere. I'm kind of waiting for it, for some surprise, to happen. And if nothing happens, and it's so relatively easy, I'm not, she says, I'm not saying it's noise free, but it's so relatively easy. Why not everybody's doing it? What am I missing?" And she was like, "What's wrong here?" And I told her, "Listen, I don't know. I really don't know. You see, you know exactly what to expect. You know what's going on. You know how things are. You know the processes. Now you know it even a little bit better because before we spoke, everything was very theoretical. Everything was hearsay. Now you're not only just recently purchased, you are 2.5 years in, 2 properties. It's not an extensive experience, but nonetheless an experience. And you see that it works. For the bigger part, it works. When I say the bigger part, there is noise in the system, right? Vacancies, repairs, etc. Of course. And she knows, and she didn't even complain about it. She said, "I understand. For the bigger benefit of my household, financial household, it works. And she was waiting. She kept thinking she's missing something here. That's been probably 3 years ago that we spoke, maybe 2.5, 3 years ago. Since then, she purchased more properties. The conversation from that point on moved on to how to purchase the next few properties, which we discussed about different options. We actually discovered that she has a retirement account she's not utilizing. And we talked about the possibility of utilizing that retirement account to buy more real estate. And she did. And she purchased. Actually, there's one house she purchased and she wasn't very happy with it because she felt it's making too much noise in her life. So 2.5 years later, she decided to sell it and switch it to 2 other properties because it's appreciated a bit during that time. And she just felt it's not a bad house, but it just compared to the level of noise she would like to see from her houses or portfolio, that was too much noise, for her lifestyle. She sold it. She made a small profit of $7,000 or $8,000 in a period of before, not including cash flow and not including anything else, just net on the selling price. And she said, you know what, 8,000 in 2 years. No complaints here. I've done nothing. What have I done? I just purchased it, rented, collected rent. Yes, I had some longer vacancies and some more noise in the system, but 2 years later, I'm selling it and buying another house, and I made $8,000. She says, I'm happy. I thought $8,000 is very little. She was like, no, I'm very happy. I could actually be okay if I can replicate that every 2 years. I have no problem. Relatively to the amount of work I've done, it's nice. It's an extra $8,000 I didn't even plan for. So she's done that. She moved that. She decided to reposition her portfolio, bought other homes. Everything is fine. She's still, in the process of thinking of her next investment now, as much as I can tell. No surprises. Why am I telling you all of this? The reason I'm telling you all of this is, I've been doing this for 16 years now. 16 years working with investors. And when you work for such a long time with investors, there are things you see, patterns that you can actually notice that only notice after a long period of time, right? They only emerge or can actually spot them because some of those patterns only emerge behavioral patterns behave only after 2, 3, 4 years of someone's doing something, right? It's not necessarily patterns you would see within a year or 2 years time frame. So I've noticed those patterns, right? Many of them, by the way, right? One of those patterns, which actually took me quite a while to notice, but I've seen it happening, I've realized it, is what investing does on a household or a financial mindset. It's so powerful. It's actually, every time I think about it, it blows my mind. Because here's what usually happens. And she's a very typical story. Someone thinks about it, talks about it, digest. Now it turns into 2 groups, those who do, those who don't, right? Those who do and buy and take the leap of faith of buying an investment property. Why am I saying the leap of faith? Because there are always going to be unknowns. There's always risk. We can't control 100% of the things. By the way, the perfect, amazing opportunity that every once in a while people ask me or tell me about doesn't exist. It's a fantasy. What exists are nice homes, right? Nice home, good homes, right? But the amazing, no-brainer, it doesn't exist. Every house has, some compromise. We're going to do some compromise, right? Either on price, on rent, on location, on size, maybe 2 of those things. There's always going to be a little bit of a compromise. Not significant, but there's no perfect. Doesn't exist. And if you understand that, that will help you move to the next level of investing. But I want to go back to the point that she was hesitant about investing. And then she said, you know what, I'll buy my first one. And she got it, and it got rented in 10 days, although she expected it to take a month and a half. Within 10 days, she had a tenant. And rent started coming in regularly, right? And even when there were hiccups along the way, altogether, after a year or 2, she saw how things are coming regularly. Rent is coming in. She says, the system just works. It just works, right? And she was very amazed. She was not surprised, but you know what? It's one thing to experience it or really acknowledge it when someone talks about it, like me. It's a whole different experience when you actually see that it's actually working for you, right? The rent comes in every month. And even when there is noise and hiccups in the system, in the process, you still survive them without too much hustle. And when that happens, it takes several months usually for someone to say, wait, what's going on here? I purchased this house. It's rented out. I'm using a property manager, so that means I don't spend a lot of my time dealing with anything. I do spend a little time, but not a lot. For the most part, it operates in the background. And I get the rent coming in, and then I generate a little bit of a cash flow because we have a mortgage and expenses, so it's not a lot of money. But you know what? I'm also not spending a lot of time. There are months that I'm generating $200, $150, $300 a month in cash flow without doing a single thing, not even responding to an email because it's a quiet month. So that's like free money, so to speak, or infinite return on investment of your time, right? And then it starts putting things into the right perspective in people's minds. Say, wait. If this is something that's working well, and with the noise or with the hiccups, relatively not a lot of my time and energy is put into it, and it operates in the background, and it's generating, and it's building, and I know it's not going to make me rich next year, but I can see where it's heading in terms of building the wealth or the equity to the long term, and I have patience for this. That's mind-blowing. Like, people always talk about passive income, mailbox money, but a lot of talk. How many people really put it into practice? And they're buying a mechanism, right? The rental property is a mechanism to generate both cash flow, if we know how to do it, and wealth over the long term. It's a long play. And then what happens, when that happens and that being internalized, the next thing is like, okay, I get it. I need more of those. And I can tell you that she bought one. I think she bought out the second one because it just seems to be, she was guessing it's still working. She was not 100% probably comfortable with it. I could tell from the conversation we had after the second one. And then at that conversation, at that point of time when she had two properties, the goal of the conversation was, how do we proceed? And she said, my challenge now is to figure out where do I bring the cash and how much cash I need for the next properties. All of a sudden, her mindset, not just her mindset, the family mindset, the family economics or financial prioritization got realigned or recalibrated. And now she said, now I'm starting to think that I need not one and not two, I need 5 or 6 or 7. Everybody's going to be different about it. And how do I get to that point? So the conversation or the discussion she's having with her husband is not, should we buy another one? What should we do next? It's like, okay, how do we prioritize our financials so we can make sure we have enough for the next house down payment, not in 2 years, but within a year. Not within a year, maybe within 6 months, and so on. And that's an amazing impact it has on people's mindset. And I've seen it multiple times. I like to call it, with the food comes the appetite. But it's not really, correct, because what I see is that people are like, okay, it's working, it's happening. I need to realign my financials so I can start buying more. So there's an amazing impact or effect on our mindset when we start investing. And again, I'm not, I think you hear it throughout the entire session that I'm not saying everything is perfect and no problem. Of course, there's noise, there's hiccups, there's not everything is going to go smoothly. But the way we design our system, simply do it. The way we go about it is that we always try to minimize the noise in the system for investors. So our investors, our aspiration for us and for them is to have as much as possible buy and forget experience, right? Buy and forget, so it doesn't disturb their lifestyle. And again, we're not there. We're always aiming there, but we're not there. But the amazing impact it has, someone actually does invest and owns a rental property, and within several months, it kind of clicked. Like, okay, something is happening here. Many times, investors, even mature in age, mature in behavior, don't really internalize it. After several months, it's been working. It's been working for them. I think the ones that I like the most are the ones that are actually people who are coming from some strong financial background, realtors that we work with, financial planners that we work with. Actually, I don't see many of them, but a few of them, when they do the mind switch and they become an investor and they purchase and they see what happens, they're like, wait, I am a financial person, but this is pretty amazing. This is really works in the background. That's the key here. It works in the background for the most part, and it builds. Real estate with a mortgage, with a mortgage, if you buy it correctly, loves time. And if you buy it correctly, it will not take over your lifestyle. It will be something that will be mainly growing in the background. See, the way I look at those houses that we're buying, investing in, I always consider I consider it like a fruit tree. We buy the fruit tree when it's small, and over time, right, we take care of the tree, and the tree grows, and slowly it gives us fruits. So the fruits, the apples, are our cash flow, and the growth of the house is the equity. And trees don't grow fast. Maybe bamboo is, but that's the only one, right? Trees go slowly, and fruits are coming our way. Sometimes more fruits, sometimes less fruits. But all in all, it grows very, very similarly. Now, do we need to attend to our tree on an ongoing basis, daily basis? Maybe, probably not, right? And once we have a good tree, what do? We actually plant another tree. We just call it another house. Right? We just go and plant another one. And then another one kind of starts growing in the background for us, right? The equity growth and more fruits are coming, right? Now, the amazing thing is that we don't have to take care of those trees ourselves, right? We can hire a gardener, right? Someone that will do it for us. Well, yes, we do need to watch over and to make sure the gardener is working for us. But the gardener is going to do most of the labor without us being, needing to attend to the tree. In real estate, we don't call them gardeners. They have a different name. We call them property managers. Let my gardener property manager take care of my tree. And I have to watch over and make sure the gardener property manager, does a good job. But all in all, he may even do a better job than I am because he's a pro and experienced gardener, and I'm not. So that's actually a good thing, to hire that gardener property manager and let it grow in the background, right? Don't let it, don't fall asleep watching over, but you don't have to be there on a daily basis monitoring your property because nothing really happens on a daily basis. And that's an amazing impact that you will have for your life over time. And that first property is going to be a game changer for you because it's going to be a game changer because here the mindset is going to change. And all of a sudden you internalize that there is a system, a vehicle, an asset, a mechanism that helps you build wealth in a slow way, right? In a slow way, you can get lucky and it can appreciate double in price in 1 year, but we are not planning for it. So let's assume in a slow way in the background without interfering with the lifestyle. And when you buy one, several months after that, you will actually get it and see that it's working for you, and that it's actually working, and you should then start asking yourself, what's going on here, and how can I replicate that? So that's what I want to say about people who think about it. There is an underlying current here that says when you buy real estate, yes, you're investing on one hand, but you're also making a financial impact on your mindset. And I think that financial impact is very, very important because that will fuel your altogether financial behavior. Altogether, it will impact all your financial behavior. But it's a slow process. With that said, I am done with what I wanted to talk about today, how one simple single-family home investment can make a huge difference on your financial behavior. I've seen it. I'm talking from experience, from observation. By the way, I've seen it here, absolutely 100%, but I've also seen it with other people, investors that I work with, and I've seen that change and that mindset happening on their end. The fear, the concern, and then slowly, like, what the heck is going on here? Wow, I like it. Okay, how can I buy more properties? That's it. What I have to say for today. I hope you benefited from this. Sometimes I want to do something more inspirational. Sometimes I want to do something more practical. So every session is a little bit different. If there are any comments or questions, by all means, please put them on the right now in the live or later on in the comments. No problem. I want to mention again, we are broadcasting this, or have 3 media channels you can consume this content on: Facebook, on YouTube, and on our podcast. And for those of you who speak Hebrew, we want to consume this information in your mother tongue. You can also subscribe to our Hebrew podcast channel. With that said, I'm gonna wait for 20 seconds and see if there are any questions or comments coming up on the live. And based on that, we'll decide if to continue or to do a wrap for today. By the way, I want to take this opportunity and say happy Halloween. Hopefully, all of you had a lot of fun last night. I know I did. Walking the streets of Newport Beach, California. It was chilly but fun. Always great to see the kiddos with the costumes and the originality and the ideas. So that was a great night last night. I see there are no comments and questions coming in. I want to say thank you for joining. Thank you for staying on for 30-ish minutes. And I wish all of you a great weekend and a great rest of your day. And Shabbat Shalom. Bye-bye, everyone.